Delayed reaction. The Home Secretary, Charles Clarke, knew that killers and rapists were among the foreign prisoners released and not deported, but he kept it from the Prime Minister for 3 weeks. There is a torrid week ahead for Labour. In addition to calls for Clarke and John Prescott to go, voters will give their verdict on the government in Thursday's local elections. Also tonight, fresh doubts. Fergie says there's little hope of Rooney making it to Germany. And still trapped, the Australian miners who've spent 6 days underground waiting to be rescued. Hello, good evening. The Home Secretary has had little respite over the bank holiday from the crisis surrounding the release of foreign prisoners from Britain's jails. It emerged today that Charles Clarke knew that some of the offenders who weren't deported were murderers and rapists, but he didn't tell the Prime Minister for 3 weeks. The growing fiasco has led to fresh calls for his resignation, and in addition, opposition MPs are demanding he updates the Commons tomorrow. Here's Libby Wiener.
For Dorothy Gale, the row over foreign prisoners is not just a political matter, but a deeply personal one. Her son Donovan was murdered in Birmingham by a convicted drug dealer, whom she says should have been deported back to Jamaica.
At the end of the court case, I said that if he was deported, then maybe my son, just maybe my son, would be still alive.
Her claims come as the Home Secretary, Charles Clarke, signalled he planned to fight on to keep his job. In an interview with his local newspaper, he said, "My own political future depends on my own strength of character, dealing with the points that are raised, and most importantly on the decisions of the Prime Minister. If I lost that support, that would be different." But the Tories say Mr Clarke has to go, not least because he was so slow to admit how bad things had got.
Not only did he not tell the Prime Minister, more seriously, he didn't tell the police. Crimes have been committed by these offenders, the 1,023 offenders that were released onto our streets. He has to take responsibility, he has to resign. He cannot be the man who's actually going to give the Home Office the leadership that it needs.
We're now really descending into a situation of farce where we are trying to guess and second guess what the figures that the Home Office are issuing in dribs and drabs really mean. That is no way to deal with a major crisis of political confidence in the government and a major crisis in the basic functions of the Home Office.
Downing Street still insist Mr Clarke has the Prime Minister's full support. One Labour backbencher denying he'd kept anyone in the dark.
What he could have done is told the Prime Minister, look, we've got a problem, but I don't know the details. Or do what he did, is actually find out the facts. Instead of panicking, find out what the facts, because anyone can actually just make a broad gesture and just come up with some headline figure. You know, that's not what Charles is about.
But as the traditional May Day rallies got underway today, it wasn't just the future of Mr Clarke being discussed, but also that of Mr Blair.
All I know is that where you've got uncertainty, you're causing instability. The sooner that uncertainty is out the way, and we have a Labour leader with well-known policies and a well-known cabinet to lead us into what is going to be a very, very difficult fourth term for me and for many people like me who are, you know, vehement Labour supporters. The sooner that happens, the better now.
The Tories and Liberal Democrats seem determined to keep up the pressure on Charles Clarke to go. Whether he can survive now depends very much on how far he can convince his Labour colleagues and the Prime Minister that he really has got a grip on the problems within his own department. Libby Wiener, ITV News, Westminster.
It's the question tormenting England fans, desperate to see Wayne Rooney steer his side to glory in the World Cup. Will he go or won't he? The striker's club manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, severely dented those hopes today, saying he doubted Rooney would play at all. Damon Green has the latest on yet another England player with a jinxed metatarsal.
The United manager knows what happens when Wayne Rooney is missing. His side failed to score tonight and failed to win a vital game. So when Sir Alex Ferguson told his club's website today that he doubts his striker can recover in time for the World Cup, he knows what bad news that is for England, even though his view contradicts some medical opinion.
He can start after 2 weeks in doing some exercise that's non-weight bearing, like swimming or like cycling, just to keep up his cardiovascular fitness. And considering he's young, it should heal fairly quickly, so I'd give it a prognosis from 4 to 6 weeks.
With so many England fans believing their side have no hope at the World Cup without a fit Wayne Rooney, and so many hopes being carried by these feet, his boot manufacturers have issued a statement insisting they weren't to blame for the injury. But whoever is to blame, time is the enemy now for the young striker and for England manager Sven-Göran Eriksson. Because it's not long before a decision has to be taken. A 26-man squad for the World Cup must be named by May the 8th, just a week away, and that squad must be trimmed to 23 final names a week later. On June the 10th, England will meet Paraguay in their first group game of the World Cup, and if Rooney is to recover in time for the knockout rounds, he has until the 24th or 25th of June, 8 weeks from now, to be fully fit. England fans can always hope, but the fact is that those who pay the medical bills say, don't hope for too much. Damon Green, ITV News.
Some other stories making the headlines tonight, and President Bush has hailed the formation of a new government in Iraq as a turning point. The president this evening praised the unified government made up of Sunnis, Shias and Kurds for understanding the dual challenges of fighting the insurgency and rebuilding the economy.
The Iraqi people need to know that we stand with them, that we understand the strategic importance of a free Iraq in the Middle East, and that we understand the need to deny safe haven to the terrorists.
Thousands of immigrant workers in America took the day off today in protest at proposed new laws, making it more difficult for illegal immigrants to get jobs. The mostly Hispanic protesters wanted to show how much they matter to the US economy. Schools and shops were also boycotted. And here, police in Kent say a teenage girl found in a car park in Tunbridge Wells had been suffocated and stuffed into a suitcase. Terry Edmonds vanished on Easter Monday on her way to meet her boyfriend in the town. A local man is still being questioned in connection with her murder. Rescue workers in Tasmania are still battling to free 2 miners from their terrifying ordeal more than half a mile underground. Part of the tunnel the men were working in collapsed after an earthquake.
You know, I knew straight away that I probably knew that I broke it, but, you know, I was wishing I hadn't.
Some have blamed modern football boots for failing to offer sufficient protection, but Rooney insists his boots are not at fault.
No, not at all. You know, before we actually wear the boots, they get tested out to make sure that they're suitable for the player, and you know, my boots have been checked out and my boots are fine.
It's an appreciative word for the fans.
I'd like to thank everyone who's given me messages and, you know, supporting me.
And a promise that England's young talisman will do his best to be there, even if time is against him. Paul Davis, ITV News.
Fingers crossed now. They may have been crowned Premiership champions on Saturday, but tonight Chelsea suffered only their 4th league defeat of the season. Opponents Blackburn even clapped them onto the pitch ahead of this evening's match at Ewood Park. However, that's where the charity certainly ended. Stephen Reed's goal securing Blackburn a 1-0 win over Chelsea and a place in next season's UEFA Cup awaits. And in Scotland, Rangers have kept alive their hopes of Champions League qualification. Chris Boyd scored both their goals in a 2-1 win over Hibs, but Rangers, they still remain 4 points adrift of Hearts in second place. Now, England's cricket selectors face a fast bowling crisis ahead of the opening test against Sri Lanka next week. Stress fracture to his back has ruled James Anderson out for 2 months, and with Steve Harmison injured and Simon Jones almost certain to be missing, Lancashire Sajid Mahmood is in line for a test debut. OK, look at this. Fitness has not been an issue in Japan, where footballers as old as 93 have been showing off their skills. They were playing in their own rather more leisurely version of the World Cup, and despite their age, not a broken metatarsal in sight. I'm glad to report. That's it. Mark.